Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hey everyone, welcome back. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and this is Joe on Joe, the G.I. Joe podcast, where we watch every episode of G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero in sequential order, and comment on it Mystery Science style. And today, I'm happy to welcome a guest, a fan of the show, a listener of the show, and a new friend. His name is Jonathan Boyk. He's calling in from Bay City, Michigan, and he's a G.I. Joe fan. He loves comic books, and he loves him some video games. Jonathan, welcome to Joe on Joe.
Thanks for having me, Joe, and I'm excited to be here.
I'm very excited to have you, my friend. So, tell me a little about yourself. You're Bay City, Michigan. Where in Michigan is that?
It's like right in the middle of Michigan. Like if you could be, well, not middle. I like if you looked at your hand like a mitten.
Yeah.
And pointed at the crux of where your thumb meets the rest of your hand. That's where I live.
Awesome. And
best part about living in Michigan.
Great. And your whole life there? Is that where you're born and raised and all that?
Yeah. Born and raised.
Very cool. And how's the comic book scene there? Because I saw on the wall behind you, it looked like a giant-size X-Men 1, some other X-Men, old school X-Men frame.
Yeah, I'm a big X-Men fan. I got some key books, but the overall scene here is, I mean, it's kind of small town. It's not super small town, but it's small town, so we don't see a lot of crazy stuff walk through the doors. Most of the stuff that I've gotten, I've picked up at conventions or online.
What conventions do you hit? Do you hit Motor City Con?
Yeah.
And do you ever go into Chicago for like C2E2 or Wizard World?
I wish. I wish I had made it to that one, but I'd never had the opportunity to get down there, unfortunately.
C2E2 is fantastic. If you can get the if you have to choose one of them. I grew up at the Wizard World one back when it was just Chicago Comic Con, and it was great. And then Wizard bought it, and it slowly got not great. But the C2E2 is dynamite. I've been out in LA for the last 6 or 7 years or so I haven't been there in a while. But the first few years of C2E2 was just fantastic. A really well done Comic Con.
Yeah, my girlfriend's actually been there, and I haven't been there.
Oh, tell her to bring you next time. I've heard great things about Motor City Con.
It's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's surprisingly they pull some good guests, and it's a large size. I think it's getting too big for their location, unfortunately.
Oh yeah. Well, it's good and it's bad.
Yeah. Because
like a con, there always has to be a nice balance of the ability to maneuver and see things you want. But, but then if it's a little too empty, then everyone walks around going, oh, this is dead. This con sucks. It's dead. But then it's too full and this con's terrible. It's full of cosplayers and people just hanging out and not buying anything. And then, it's weird. Cons are... I think what I'm trying to say is comic fans are fickle there, Jonathan.
Yeah. Say the least. Say it about the least.
And you work in retail. You sell video games at a video game chain called Game On?
Yeah, we sell video games and board games and card games, and if it's a game, we sell it.
Oh, that's great. Board games are really having a renaissance.
It's crazy, actually. Board games are huge right now in our area.
Mm-hmm. Do you play?
Oh, yeah. Whenever I get the opportunity, actually, later tonight, I'm going to a friend's house. We're going to have a little get-together for what's close to the new year.
Not
necessarily.
Love it. And what are you going to play? Do you know the game yet?
I'm going to play Terra Mystica, but I don't know what else is going to be played tonight, but that game is being played for sure.
I've got a slew of board games board game culture is something I want to get into, but never make the time to do it. So I've got a wall of games where I'm like, man, I'm going to play that one day with somebody, and we're going to pretend to be Marvel heroes, or I'm going to play that game, and we're going to play XCOM, the board game, or we just never do. But I've got all these great games.
I think that happens with all. Like there's people who have boxes of comics that are like, I'm going to read those comics someday, or piles of video games. I'm going to play those video games someday. I think it happens with everything. You have an interest, but not the time.
So much so, man. I've got something like 10 long boxes of books that I need to read. And as I go through it, I realize, wow, I bought this in Chicago. It was years ago.
I've been there.
Yeah. So what's your comic collection like these days? You mentioned earlier we were offline. You mentioned something. You downsized it a little bit. So where are you still reading? Or you just getting the old stuff? Where are you at?
I read far less than I used to. There was a time in my life when my entire income was going to comics. I pretty much now I just read a few of my favorite characters, not even so much following writers anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'll read Captain America. Buying, I don't really buy like I used to. I've sold off most of my filler collection. I kept my runs from favorite artists, authors, and characters, and I just have key books outside of that anymore.
Oh, nice. And when did your comic collection start? Like, how old were you when you first started getting into it?
7, 8, man, maybe a little bit older than that. I started like, I mean, everybody liked Superman in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
So
it was really good.
I want to say comic book collecting and loving started with that, but that was a movie, so that doesn't really count.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably say early 90s when X-Men started picking up and getting huge. That's when I really got back into comics.
Yeah, the Jim Lee Claremont stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, I need to make this. And normally we don't do a lot of like current comic reviews or things like that, but I just need to make this observation since we're talking comics. Did you read the X-Men Exterminated miniseries recently just came out?
I did not.
Okay. Well, they did a series that was kind of leading into a reset just to fill listeners in, and they end one of the characters passed away. And so then they put out a book that was like a coda, kind of a funeral book for him to kind of, give him a send off, right? And Chris Claremont wrote a backup story in it, which is, I love Claremont. This is great. Always welcome.
Okay. He's wonderful.
Right. And the backup story was all about how Cyclops, spoiler alert, the guy that died, if you're not paying attention to the X-Books right now, they killed off Cable, like the older version of Cable. They replaced him with a younger time-traveling version, so he's not really dead. He's just going to be different for a little while. Anyway, but so this book was all about Cable, and they showed Claremont wrote a story that took place like the eve or right before Cable was born, he just was born. It was like he was a newborn, and he talked about how devoted Cyclops was and how Cyclops was going to be a great father, and it ends with him like hugging Madeline and and all. I feel like Chris Claremont forgot that Cyclops immediately left his wife and joined X Factor back in the day.
I actually I had the opportunity to talk to him a little over a year ago, year and a half ago. And I stunned him with something, but I can talk about that later. But I had a chance to ask him a question about Cyclops, because for me, Cyclops is the X-Men.
Oh, I love Cyclops, yeah.
Kind of like Luke Skywalker's Star Wars.
Yes.
Cyclops is X-Men.
Yes.
And I asked him, I was like, do you like him as much as it seems? Because he's in all your stories, and he's like, it's not that I like him. Honestly, tying into what you said, he's like, I don't even really think about him, but writing an X-Men story without Cyclops is like writing a Superman story without Superman.
Right.
And I was like, well, that makes sense.
Yes. He's the bridge. He's absolutely the spine. That's almost set up from day one.
I forgot about that story.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. It's great. And what you said, there was something you stunned him with. As long as we're on topic, what was it that you stunned him with?
He was standing in line to get a signature, because I was just a Joe Schmo. It wasn't anything special, but you see people coming up to him with X-Men books, First Gambits, Days of Future Past, things like that. And he's kind of just signs them because he's seen millions of them, right?
Yes.
I had done a little bit of digging before, because I am a huge Conan the Barbarian fan.
Nice.
And he did one issue of the Savage Sword of Conan. So I brought it to him, and he's signing through my books, because I brought my Days of Future Past and stuff, and he's signing through just like everybody else. And he gets to the Conan book, and he stops, and he looks at it, and he's like, just staring at it. And I kind of was feeling self-conscious at the moment. I was like, oh my God, did I bring him not his book? And he looks up at me and he goes, where did you find this? And I was like, I've had it. He's like, nobody knows I did this. I even made a mistake. And I was like, what? And he flips to the page, and he ends up signing the cover and the page. He gave Conan a thought bubble. He's like, Conan doesn't think.
Right.
And so that was kind of a cool little moment for me. I was like, oh man, one of my favorite creators, and I had a cool little moment with him. It was awesome.
That's fantastic. That's really great. The thought bubble said, "What I do, I'm the best at what I do. What I do isn't very crom."
Right? Something to that nature,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
that's awesome. That's great. I love interactions like that, like just those quiet moments where you catch where you can show the creator that you appreciate like their deep cuts.
Yeah.
I think that means the world, and I think it means the world too. Really does mean the world to the creators, because it means you're paying attention. You didn't just, oh, they wrote X-Men, here you go, random.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that with some creators at cons.
Oh, for sure. Well, yeah, I mean, I think the thing that turns me off the most is when people just roll up with a short box, ask the creator to sign everything, and just stand there expectant like the creator's a robot, and not either engage with them or, have any kind of, any kind of repartee with them. It's just, hey, sign all these, and I've seen that so often, and it's just such a turnoff. But you can't blame the creators, because most of the time, 95% of the people creating comics, they're Joes just like you and me, who are just like, they're just they got to dance monkey dance, they got to do the hustle.
No, and I think that's really rude when they walk up, even with a box. I asked Jerry Conway a couple of years ago. He was specifically who I asked, because before me was a guy who had a short box.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, what is an acceptable number of comics to bring? Like, what's a realistic? He's like, 5. Bring me 5 books.
Yep.
That's fine.
Yep.
Past that, you're getting a little pushy.
Totally. I agree. I like those new comic like convention boxes that they sell. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where it's like
No.
magnet. They've become pretty popular in the last year or so, and it fits about bagged and boarded maybe 10 or 15 books, and it's perfect because they're hard shells. And they clasp with like little magnets, so they're really easy to pop on, but they stay locked. And it's completely designed to protect your book, so you can carry it around a show. But it's not a box. You can't fit 150 books in there. It literally makes you go, oh, I'm going to bring my box to get signed. I have room for, let's say, 15 issues. I'm going to make a choice of which 15 to bring. I think I don't do it because I don't do a ton of signatures on my books, but I love seeing it. I love seeing the rise of these things. They're great.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I love it. So when did you get into G.I. Joe?
Joe's is a weird one for me. I was born in 82.
Uh-huh.
So I've met a lot of people, which a lot of people don't think about. 82 people I've met, and some of them are, they're like, well, 82, you shouldn't really be into Joe's, but Joe's ran for 12 years. 1988, when it was really in high gear there, like I was 6 years old and I was into Joe's.
Mm-hmm.
But the stuff that I really remembered was the DIC their era. However, I have a brother who's 10 years older than I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got all his hand-me-down toys. And our neighbor moved away out of state, and he was the same age as my brother, and they came over and gave me all of their G.I. Joe toys when they left, and I was like 8. So all of the stuff from 82 to 94, I actually like the whole line. I'm not like an 82 to 88 guy or an only modern guy. I like all Joes from the vintage era for sure. That being said, I've never read the comic book series.
What?
Right?
A
Right?
ghost.
I have never read it all the way through. I've read individual issues, but I've never read the whole way through. And that's a project upcoming. I will be, my friend and I are going through the entire series. But
I love that. And since we're talking about that, may I recommend that you follow us over at our Patreon page, patreon.com/JoeOnJoePod. And that's where we go through every single issue of G.I. Joe Real American Hero, the comic book from Marvel. As of this recording, I just put up issue number 47. And I apply this same kind of minutia dig into that we're doing on the cartoons. I apply it to all the comic books. We go page by page, panel by panel. We talk about books that were on the stands and all that stuff. So listeners out there, if you're getting into the G.I. Joe comic book and doing a retro reread, may I recommend that you check me out on Patreon and you can follow along. Now, do you have a full collection, or are you guys like slowly getting your collection together, or are you reading the IDW books, or?
My best friend has the capital to buy the full collection, so I do not. But I've been reading either his books or reading online.
Yeah.
To pick them up and catch them up. There's some real cool resources online to be able to read it.
Oh, great. And where are you at in the reread right now?
Roughly 32.
Oh, it's a great time, man. Introducing Dreadnoks, and you're in the middle of the hard master, soft master murder stuff, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's good times.
Oh, it's so good, so good. Well, I look forward to hearing an update from you, and when you finally get down. Is your plan to go just to the end of the Marvel, or are you then going to continue on with the IDW stuff, or then jump over to the Devil's Due / Image stuff? Like, what's your agenda here?
100% going to finish Marvel.
Yeah.
80% going to finish Larry Hama. You know, like, I'm definitely going to finish Marvel. 80% of me is like, I'll probably read all of the Larry Hama post Marvel stuff.
Right.
And then we'll just see where we go from there. That's procuring it is part of the problem. So
yeah. Oh well, good luck, and let me know. Let me know how I can help. I've got resources. I work out here at Golden Apple Comics, and we have access. I always do try to keep a healthy G.I. Joe collection of back issues, and I know that we have a pretty nice one right now. It's not comprehensive by any stretch, but it's some really good issues we have in stock. So you holler at me, and I'll hook you up.
I will do.
And guys, listeners, as long as you're on the internet, you guys want to find me at Joe on Joe Pod. That's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Send me an email, just like Jonathan did, to joeonjoepod@gmail.com. Let me know what you think of the show. Let me know if you want to be a guest on the show. I believe we have about 4 or so episodes left after this before we're going to kind of change up the format of the podcast, because we're coming to literally the end of the DIC episodes. So, so reach out and let me know what you think. And Jonathan, we can find you on Twitter and Instagram at comicbookjon, Jon. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Love it. So reach out. Find him on Instagram. Give him some hearts. Follow him. Blow him up, guys. Blow him up. Let's talk more comics. Comics. I love it. And while we're talking comics, let's hear from our sponsor, the Dreamer Comics Podcast.
Joe and Joe listeners know that I love comic books, G.I. Joe, pop culture, and my wife and dogs are pretty great too. I also love learning how people get to where they're at and where they're going. All of that comes together over at the Dreamer Comics Podcast, except for my family stuff. That'd be really weird. Omar Spahi interviews someone from the comic industry every episode, and they break down the journey that creator took to get from reading comics to creating them. Comic luminaries like Jim Valentino, Ross Ritchie, Kyle Higgins, and so many more can be found at DreamerComicsPodcast.com, or find them anywhere you get your podcasts. Everyone has a dream. Learn how to make yours a reality.
And just like that, you've become a podcast dreaming professional, making your own comic books, listening to podcasts. It's just that easy, folks. So, Jonathan, today we are watching an episode called The Eliminator.
Oh yeah.
I'm
yeah.
Excited. It's fun. I like that we're talking comic books, because The Eliminator is the absolute perfect metaphor for comic books in the 90s. It is about Overkill, the head Cobra battle android trooper, getting an upgrade and becoming the Eliminator.
Yeah,
and it's Marvel, it's Image Comics become in cartoon form is what this is. This is exactly what Image Comics was. Yeah, it's just wonderful. I actually enjoy this episode a little bit. There's a lot to like. There's a lot to be with, but there's a lot to like. Anytime I don't like Metalhead. Metalhead's a feature in this. And
he's got a cool design, and that's about where it stops.
Yes, I agree. And there's been a couple episodes, and my brain is not nailing down which episodes, but where Metalhead plays the foil of like rivalry foil. And that happens again in this one. And it's like every time they use Metalhead, he's just saying like, oh, I'm as good as you, and I'm going to ruin all our plans because I need to prove myself. And they've gone to that well multiple times, and they do it again in this episode.
Sounds like characters from lots of media, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But Mercer's back. And I like
Which is
Mercer.
awesome.
Yeah, I like Mercer a lot. And this is also the G.I. Joe has flipped trope, which has been used a few times, most notably going back to when Dusty, the two-parter when Dusty betrayed G.I. Joe, but he didn't, and he did, and he didn't, and all that stuff. So we're also dealing with that. But I always love that. That's kind of classic. That's a classic. Good trope. That's a good trope. The metalhead trope I can do without.
Right.
So, yeah. So without any further ado, I'm ready to start watching this episode. How about you?
I suppose.
No, it's good. It's good. We'll get through it. We'll get through it together. All right, listeners. So get ready. This is on. This is actually the first episode on the DIC Disc 1, even though it was not the first episode aired. But this is the first episode on the Disc 1 for the DIC stuff. So get your DVDs ready and get ready to hit play on your thing. Jonathan Boyk, we're going to watch us some Eliminator, and here we go. So we start with just a tropical paradise, a lovely, lovely hotel, and here come some Cobra attackers.
A wonderful vehicle, by the way.
Yeah.
As a toy.
Yeah. And they just
murdering whoever. He doesn't care.
They're just attacking this resort.
Yeah, they don't know who's there. Why?
It's so they think we learn that they think they're attacking a peace conference, and it turns out it's a fake building,
which is incredibly just
awesome. That's awesome. That. Yeah, it's awesome. And it's just completely hollow. It's just so funny. This is I love these cold opens, as I've said many times, but this one leaves me, pardon the pun, cold. Because it just is too we don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? It's not like we don't know what. I think it's because we don't know what that building is. So we don't know.
Who could have just potentially been murdered when they fired them.
Right. The only reason we know it's a peace conference is because Cobra Commander says, "Hey, peace conference." But what is that? It's not a known building. It's not a G.I. Joe headquarters. We literally don't see any people. So there's the weird, and obviously for good reason because it's all a fake. But there's a weird disconnect for me that it's a little awkward starting.
Well, I mean, and additionally, the whole plot of this episode is let's attack the peace conference so it doesn't happen. Kind of feels like it might make it stronger. I don't know much about much, but that seems to make sense to me.
Yeah, you might be making the argument for the peace conference because, although instead of Overkill just got blasted by Roadblock. And Overkill is right now in the beginning and the end of this episode, he is the T-800 at the end of Terminator, the first Terminator.
Yeah.
He's just I'm destroyed. He's Ash in Aliens. I'm destroyed. I'm on my last breath. I have no choices. What can you do for me? Which
I guess we can turn you into Super Robot.
Yeah, turn me into Super Ash. And not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but it's on my brain now, and I want to make sure I get this out before the end of this episode makes it retroactively a bittersweet, very sad episode. That's all I'm going to say. Let's try put a pin in that. But the end of this episode, I have thoughts, Jonathan. I have thoughts.
Well, I'll be happy to hear them. Oh, and Scarlet. I wish we could see more Scarlet in this series.
Yeah, I know. I agree. Now, that's a good-looking Terrordrome.
That is a wonderful-looking Terrordrome. That's my favorite thing.
Yeah. So what was your toy collection like? What kind of stuff did you have?
As a kid?
Yeah. Or even now, yeah.
Given to me. I have a couple toys left over from my childhood, like a 90s Firefly and a 90s Destro, but everything I have now was re-procured because my toys got destroyed. I played with my toys.
Oh, good. Well, not good, but good.
Yeah, a little bit of both.
I like to hear when people enjoy their toys. It's always good.
Oh yeah, I have far more toys than I need, which you'll see on my Instagram if you check it out.
Oh, is that what do you put on your Instagram? Is it toy
It's
shots?
just
Or?
toys.
Just toys.
Just toys.
Awesome. Well, we're gonna follow it for sure, and that's at Comic Book John on Instagram.
Yeah.
So everyone, John with a Jon.
Yeah.
For sure. Now, do you do do you pose them in like real life settings, or is it just more of like shots of the toys on your shelf kind of a thing?
Yeah, just a white background shot. But I gotta jump in here. I love how he's like, you do this thing for like repair me and I'll tell you. And the Cobra Commander's like, sure. And he's like, he doesn't even make a commitment that you have to repair me first.
No.
Cobra
No, he
Commander's
doesn't.
just like, yeah, we'll do that.
No, he doesn't.
Wink.
No, he doesn't. He's
Lucky for him.
he's a robot who hasn't yet learned the guile of humanity.
Destro's face in this series weirds me out,
It's a
which is weird because he looks more human, but it just weirds me out.
I was just gonna say that. You're right. He does look more human, and it makes it even weirder. He needs to have just a touch more metallic sheen.
Here's this random thing from Mercer's backpack. Oh, I'm sure I'll believe you. I'm Cobra Commander.
Yeah.
I also like how he calls out here to the Cobra headquarters, but when they showed the opening shot, he was at the Terradrome.
Yes.
Why?
Well, Cobra has many bases. I think that's maybe what we're saying. Terradrome right now, they're at a remote base.
He's calling Springfield.
Yeah, it's exactly right. He's calling Springfield. I do like the Cobra calling on an open channel because he knows it's gonna. Now, I have to say here, they're at a place called Conference City.
Yeah.
In the Swiss Alps.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? You couldn't come up with a better name?
Yeah.
Like, we're having a peace conference. Where's it going to be? It's got to be Conference City. It's the only place they have peace conferences.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's that not common knowledge?
Yeah. Later on, we're going to drive across town to hang out, have a few beers, and listen to some music at Jamboree City.
Catch me in Sleep Town later.
Yeah, Sleep Town. Yeah, once the sun goes down, we're going to be in Sleep Town, and in the morning we're all going to meet at Breakfastville and fill our bellies.
That'll be great.
Yeah, like that's how this works. So this we get introduced to Eliminator now. So now it's Overkill, but like big bad, upgraded Overkill. Image Comics Overkill.
Yes.
Image Comics Overkill for sure. Like he's after he leaves Cobra, he's gonna go fight Youngblood.
And he's every member of Brigade wrapped up in
100% that. Yeah, 100%. He's gonna hang out with was it Bloodstrike and as Wildcats, one of the comics proclaimed, quote, "touch the blood." That's
so bad.
Yeah, it's so bad. Yeah. Backlash is watching him going, I got a couple ideas. Hold on. I could. Yeah.
I think you've mentioned it before, but I actually really like the design of Cobra Commander and DIC.
Yeah, me too.
It's close enough to the old school, and it's just a little bit of a modern upgrade. I like it a lot.
I do. I agree. I think all the little touches, like the bright red, the gold on it, I think really makes it pop. The old one in comparison is just a little more dull and muted. It's kind of like the difference between Darth Vader in Star Wars: A New Hope and Darth Vader in Jedi.
Yeah.
When you see Vader in Jedi, he's shiny. He's the gray on his chest piece is a little more accentuated. Like you could see it a little brighter.
Yeah.
And then comparing him just the workman-like look that he had in A New Hope.
Yeah, or even when you look at him in Rogue One and just how polished. I mean, he's a lot CG, but how polished he is just beautiful.
Yeah. Okay.
I also like how Metalhead here is trying to work out to compete with a robot.
Yes, Metalhead is the John Henry Irons.
Yes.
John Henry Irons. John Henry Irons was Steel. He's the John Henry of Cobra.
Close enough.
John Henry Irons.
He's
also
competing with Superman.
Yeah. Okay, that cow is very excitable.
Why?
I don't know. This is the part of this episode that I just could do without. This, you just take all this metalhead like competition stuff, just get rid of it.
Yeah, I mean, outside of that, the episode's fine.
Yeah, it's cool. You know, like this. Okay, by the way, this freeze ray, frightening,
It's terrifying.
frightening,
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
terrifying.
I'm pretty
real.
sure those people are actually dead.
They have to be dead, which means at the end of the show, he done killed him some Joes.
Oh yeah, that makes him probably the most deadly Joe villain ever.
Yeah, on the cartoon, he kills him some G.I. Joes, and I know they're like, we gotta thaw these Joes, but I don't believe it. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, that's why we didn't see anybody. Well, no, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Also,
we'll get there.
so I'm assuming this World Peace Conference is populated by. Oh, Jesus, that president is straight frozen.
Yup.
That's awesome. We're going into commercial with that's a great commercial break. We'll be right back. Today's Filecard features on Destro's Elite Trooper, codenamed Annihilator. The Annihilators are Destro's personal bodyguards and elite airborne assault troops. They can be deployed by sea, air, and land takeoff with their mini-turbine helipacks on their backs and descend upon their target like armored locusts. Annihilators are recruited from the ranks of the Iron Grenadiers. As part of their indoctrination into the Annihilator Corps, they must serve an apprenticeship as hard-sell telephone solicitors, procuring sales for Destro's Mars Armament Corporation. Not only does this help to increase Destro's coffers, but it also reinforces their tenacity and ruthlessness. Quote, Annihilators don't get medals, they get shares of stock in Mars and active participation in Destro's profit-sharing plan. These guys are the ultimate specialists in hostile takeovers. The first thing I like about the Annihilator is that they really expanded Destro's crew. My recollection, because I had stopped collecting the toys at the time and was just kind of following along in the comic, was that Destro had just those Iron Grenadiers, and that was it. And I like the idea that Destro was building up his private army around the world to rival Cobra, or at least have a place when Cobra ultimately would fail under the command of Cobra Commander. Onto the figure itself, the color scheme is a little garish. I wish it would have been like that black and gold color scheme. I think that would have been stronger. It's orange and purple with the gold braiding across. The gold braiding is kind of like Destro's look, but the orange and purple is a little much for me. However, the coolest thing is this guy did come with, on the card, he was a carded figure, and he came with his own backpack helicopter. So it was like getting a toy on a regular carded figure, like getting a vehicle with him. That's really kind of neat. So I like it, and I love that they make the fact that they have to make him salesmen makes him even more sinister. Absolutely fantastic. So the Annihilator, we salute you. Yeah, that's a legit horrifying commercial break. I love that. I really like that a lot. So they're at a peace conference with what I'm assuming to be the representatives of all the world's nations, right? And she said, we're here to we're here to celebrate peace, and all those people applauded in an uproar. If all those people applauded for the peace conference, why do they even need a peace conference? If they're all on board.
Maybe they're just using the term peace conference as anti-Cobra conference.
That's, you know what, they did say something about like they do say something about like we're here basically to just talk about Cobra.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Crimson Twins are over there and they're like, "Hey man, we have an island. We're a nation. We're standing right here, guys." Like it's
that
like
would actually be. I would love to see that scene.
Yeah, just a cutaway of like right in front of my salad. Like, come on.
This is the most wonderful base in the history of ever. It's double door. It's not just one door that looks like rock. It's two doors.
Yes. Well, it's where there was a great old club. It closed down, but a music club in Chicago called the Double Door. It's where the Double Door got their idea.
Oh,
the founder. No, not. It's not really.
I know yes.
Yeah, the founder's watching this, going, "Wait a minute, I've got an idea."
That thing.
Yeah. So now, Metalhead is just pulling an Ivan Drago.
He's gonna break him.
Yeah, I mean, this is just. I mean, it's honestly, Cobra Commander. You surround yourself with dummies like this. That's why you're gonna fail.
Right. But props to Metalhead for doing this in all of his gear.
Yeah, that is true. That's well, it's like you practice how you play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. He probably should have like double the gear on so that when he does go into actual battle, it'll feel like nothing.
I love how he's crying for help and everybody's just like, yeah, whatever. We'll get to you. Or
yeah.
not.
Okay, see, finally, you fired him. You should have fired him years ago. Never pay me. Oh. Good, terrible.
Like, what are you there for?
Yeah. Why are you hanging out? Is it just the free room and board and all the swanky vacation spots? If you're not getting a paycheck, who's supporting your granny back in your home country, metalhead? Who's keeping the roof over her head?
I love how they, especially during this era, they just made them toy commercials, and they did such a good job with showing the whole line.
They did. They really did, and it's just like these long battle sequences of just toys on toys.
And the Joes are wrecking shop here.
Yeah, they really are.
And
even without my tank tread. And here comes Overkill. Because I love that he's surprised, even though Overkill's just a robot. Like, even if his body got destroyed, I would still always expect him to just make another Overkill.
Yeah, like Ultron.
Right.
I'm gonna drop something on this guy.
Yeah, like that's the point. That's the advantage of being a robot. Like even going back to the beginning. I mean, wait, literally, that is what they did here. He was hurt.
That's not how missiles work.
No, it's really not.
Sorry, continue.
It's really not. No, you're not wrong. That is literally what they did here. His body got blown up. They put him in a new body. So you should never be surprised to see Overkill. In fact, let's think about the reality of this. As soon as a robot gets sentience like this, he would immediately replicate himself in every robot.
Yep.
There would not be one Overkill. There would be, especially if he has the ability to flip into a new body, as we're seeing here, there would be 150,000 Overkills.
But I like how his personality entirely changed with this new body.
Yeah, well, he's got confidence.
Yeah.
Cloudburst is dead.
No.
They're all dead, guys.
I'm gonna pretend that other guy there was Grunt.
Yeah, I don't understand how they could possibly be alive. I never
Ratchet saved them.
Yeah, I never understood how Ratchet. I never understood how Mr. Freeze's cold gun didn't kill everyone immediately.
Yeah,
like we'll say within a couple minutes.
I mean, at the best, right?
Yeah.
Like that. Anybody like cryogenics don't work this way.
Right. And they even talk about that on this episode where they're like, it's. I think they say it's nitrogen, and they're like, it freezes everything in seconds. It makes it super cold and brittle. All right, well then they're dead.
Yeah, I think that's actually.
Yeah.
One of the things I can give this show, and they did it back with Destro toward the beginning when they were talking about putting the cryo gun in, was like trying to teach kids some of these bigger words. Like they tell you the word and then they explain what it means.
You know what? Actually, Mercer just said the night. Maybe that's what my brain was confusing that. So Mercer's saying we need to use liquid nitrogen. Maybe that's not the freezing agent that's used in the cold gun.
Yeah, because they were talking about it with Destro just made a cryogenics.
Got it. Okay, and if you use the word cryogenics, that implies that it's keeping the living tissue alive.
Yeah,
I guess.
I
in
guess
sci-fi, in 90s, this episode aired within earshot of movies like Demolition Man.
Oh wow!
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so, it's a thing. It's a thing at the time. Let's freeze you and wake you up. Uh-oh. You telling me this robot lied? Okay. We're going to commercial. I got a thought on puns here.
Hey, listeners, if you're anything like me, all apologies to your family. I'm just kidding. It's likely that they made you this way. No, I'm talking about that I'm always looking for more G.I. Joe content, and I think I found it. Stop what you're doing. Okay, don't stop listening to this podcast. Can't you multitask? And go to Facebook/Special Mission Force. Brian Wilkins is curating all kinds of wonderful, nostalgic G.I. Joe content, including new pics from his fantastic Instagram page @Special Mission Force. on his Instagram, he's taking photos of Joes out in the wild, in the real world, doing stuff. For me, the two things that stand out the most are his variety of characters that he takes pictures of, and like the depth of field in these pictures. It's just a wonderful job of directing focus for you. I think you really will enjoy his work. So like him on Facebook, follow him on Instagram and Twitter, and get ready for his website, specialmissionforce.com. He's a name to watch in the G.I. Joe game, so get on board now. Now back to the show. So get ready to get iced. It sounds like they wanted it, and this is pre Batman and Robin.
Yep.
But it sounds like they wanted to do a Schwarzenegger-esque Mr. Freeze pun.
I mean,
but they didn't. They didn't write one. So write a pun. Make it a pun. Don't just say get ready to get iced. Like say something like, get ready, to freeze in your tracks, or something like Schwarzenegger did in that movie, which is terrible by all accounts. Chill out. Right. Just get ready to. I'm just going to be very literal here. Get ready to be frozen, because that's what I'm going to do to you.
Man, Mercer's brilliant. Mercer's smart.
He's great.
This episode makes me really like Mercer.
Yeah.
Outside of what the last time anybody cared about him was in the movie.
Yeah, he's a survivor, man. Like he's con jobbing Cobra into believing that he's actually like I guess he'd be a triple agent.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's wonderful because he's like, oh yeah, my backpack got ripped off. We're just gonna pretend this works.
Mm-hmm.
Why were you gonna punch the robot, Metalhead? Come on, man.
Why are you punching robots? Why are you playing poker with a robot?
I think he's gonna lose. So he probably knows the odds better than you.
Exactly. I gotta tell you, I think this is proof that Metalhead has no friends.
Or brains.
Brains, yeah. Brains too, but definitely friends. This is what no one likes Metalhead, because he's forced to play cards with a robot.
And here's writing in action, them not letting the Joe be the one to kill the bad guy.
You're exactly right. You are exactly right. So that was pretty sweet, though, because Mercer did use the nitrogen to freeze Eliminator, and then he was shattered. It's awesome.
But question, where are the rest of the troopers and guards? Mercer's just running around like, oh, I'm gonna go unlock the Joes now.
Well, there they are. There's a couple of random bats who aren't shooting.
Oh, whoops! We're supposed to be not playing poker. Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
And here's those double doors again.
Yeah, hold on. We cracked one door. Now wait a minute. We got to crack the other one.
No, there's only one door that time.
Let's see. Oh, well. Maybe I'm willing to bet that Metalhead left the other one open.
They've ruined their own continuity.
Yeah, I'm gonna blame Metalhead. Gonna blame, or maybe we'll give him this. We'll give him this. The mountain door that was just a facade. That wasn't actually any kind of protective door. It was just a facade. So maybe they busted through it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. So, Jonathan, on my show, Joe on Joe, we love to ask my guests if you could be a member of the Joe or Cobra team, which team would you be on? What would your specialty be? And what would your code name be? So it is that time, my friend.
Code name I have not thought about, but I did think about this question. I'm a Joe.
Okay.
I'm a Joe through and through. And I worry and prepare ahead for everything. So I would be a Joe strategist. 100%.
So you'd be a strategist.
I would be a Joe strategist because I don't like to just play by the seat of my pants. I have a plan every day for everything. Well, so 100% Joe strategist. I don't know. We'll call me the worry wart.
No, I'm sorry. I don't mean to say no to you. By the way, they did thaw those Joes, which is crazy. I know what your name is, and if you don't like it, you can feel free to say no. But this came to me, and I think I have the right answer here. Your name is Strategio.
Strategio, all close to the game, but not
exactly
close enough
like Stratego. Like you love board games. You're a strategist. It's a strategy game. You're Strategio. Does that work?
J-O-E.
J-O-E, yeah. Strategio, yeah.
All right, I'm Strategio, the Joe strategist.
Yes, you are. Welcome to Joe on Joe, Strategio, the Joe strategist. Now, this is the part of the episode
that is sad.
Yep.
So what he's saying is, if I can't be the best me possible, I don't want to be anything.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying
sad.
here. That is a horrible lesson. That if you can't be super you, then just kill yourself. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, that's an overly cryptic way to look at it.
I want to be a vacuum cleaner. If I can't be a super machine, I don't want to have any sentience at all. And I want to literally eat dirt for my existence. Literally eat dirt, which is what a vacuum cleaner does.
And Metalhead's just like, yep, sure.
Yeah. Metalhead loves it. Metalhead, though, still not sure that he can best a vacuum cleaner.
You know, looking back on this episode, a thing that I can say about DSC is they did a good job with character-based episodes rather than them all being like 30 Joes per episode.
Yes.
And I know they kind of did that in the Sunbow stuff, but it feels like they made a real attempt here.
Yeah,
like, this is your Mercer episode.
That was their strong point. I don't know if it was stronger than the Sunbow stuff, but their strong point was the single issues. When they try to do the broader, more team-based adventures, it usually fell. Like one of the characters would always fall off, or plot points would just be ignored, or like it wasn't as balanced as when Sunbow did the team-based episodes.
Yeah, I would never argue that it's better than Sunbow.
Yeah.
I do like the attempt and just that they took the time to think about, like, yeah, we're going to make sure some of these lesser-known characters get episodes.
Sure.
Instead of especially at this time in the rest of the Joe universe, than it just being Snake Eyes the show.
Right. Although I wish there was a Snake Eyes the show. That would have been dope.
I mean,
just a silent half hour of cartoon kung fu. Yes. I'm in. Just all the random characters just narrating exactly what's going on because you can't tell it from the main character, so it's just over exposition every time he's on the screen. I'm in.
Are we talking about what's going to happen in that movie then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I love Snake Eyes as much as the next guy. I do.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I would want to see that.
Well, unfortunately, I have a strong feeling that they might team him up with a plucky youngster that'll provide the narrative heavy lifting, and that's going to depress me.
Either that, or they might give him Scarlet or something.
Oh, I hope they do. Assuming he's going to have a sidekick, and obviously Storm Shadow's going to be involved too. But I hope it's Scarlet, and I hope they just treat him as equals instead of like a weird mentor with a young person. So that that would be amazing.
Potentially, they could do the whole Storm Shadow and him are friends the whole movie until the very end.
Yeah, well, the way that's actually, if you do it as his origin story, then you just literally have him be a normal person, and he only goes mute at the end. I just want him to be mute, not because he made a vow of silence. Just do get that part right, Hasbro. Because if he's literally a soldier fighting with a team and he's mute because he made a vow of silence, that is so irresponsible of him. Because you're telling me there's no instance where he should go, "Hey, Scarlet, look behind you. Hey, Duke, heads up. You're about to get shot." But instead he has to use hand signals and what? You're making life harder for everyone. You have a voice, use it. Yeah. It has to be that he's damaged. You could change the reasons why he's damaged. It doesn't have to be, the helicopter blast saving Scarlet, etc. But it has.
I kind of like what they did in Renegades with him.
I forget how that was. How did he go? Yeah,
Storm Shadow caught him with a throwing star right across his throat.
Perfect. It's great. Yeah, that's great. That's great. I love it. Yeah, it has to be damage. It can't be by choice. Because if it's by choice, he's entirely irresponsible.
Yeah.
Totally. I love it. Jonathan Boyk, you're fantastic.
Thank you. I love the show. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you taking your time to be a guest. So remember, listeners, go find Jonathan at Comic Book John on Twitter and Instagram. And give him a shout. And this has been a delight, Stratego.
Thanks a lot, Joe.
You got it, man. And now you, Joe, and joeing is half the battle.